So mostly you've been hearing about talks related to Ruby, Rails, all the other fun stuff about the Ruby ecosystem. I thought it'd be fun if I talked about something completely different, sales, which most people hate and don't like to talk about very much. I've been involved in sales for quite a bit of time now. I had very bad perceptions of it, but things have changed for me, and I thought I'd at least try to enlighten some other individuals about it as well. So I'm going to start by painting a picture and telling you about how a dear friend of mine learned to use sales to benefit himself. So I'd like you to meet a friend. His name's Zach. He just graduated from college, so he's getting up right now. He's ready to go to his graduation ceremony. He's super excited. He spent 4 years learning from professors at a really good university about computer programming, and he's really excited about graduating. So at his graduation ceremony, Zach hears from Professor Newman about how him and his friends are going to be ready in the real world. They've gone to an amazing university. Everybody's going to want to hire them. As some people say, the world is their oyster. They can do whatever they want. So Zach's super happy. He just got his degree. But the problem is he's now realizing that he's not the only one that just went to a good university. So did all of his friends. There are tons of other good universities out there that have the same type of computer science program. So how's he really going to differentiate himself? These people learn about, theoretical programming, scripting languages, everything that you're supposed to learn in college. So what makes him better than these other people? He's kind of realized he's, as some would say, a little fucked. How's he going to convince the companies that he wants to work for that he's the right person to hire compared to all these other people? So my name's Danish. I live in a city where you can get $2 million for writing an app that just says yo. And I work for a t-shirt and sticker company called GitHub. So how is Zach going to figure out how to explain to these companies that he's the right person to hire for the job? He's going to have to basically learn how to sell himself, how to explain to these people that he has the skill set and all the other things that they're looking for as well. That's going to make him a great programmer, and that's going to make him a great asset to their team. He's going to need to learn about interacting with other people, how to persuade them, how to convince them, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's knowledge that he didn't really learn while he was in college. So when most people think of sales, they think of the sleazy salesman, whose only goal in life is to make money out of the other person that they're talking to. A very good negative perception that's displayed in Hollywood is the movie Glenn Ross. It's actually a really good movie. I would recommend watching it if you haven't, but it definitely epitomizes the sleazy salesman. These are just a few of the quotes from the movie. They're very iconic, and they definitely point out the fact that in some cases sales can really be a department, and the people in it can really be sleazy, can really be essentially just trying to gain for themselves and not really trying to help out the person that they're talking to, the person that they claim to be helping in some way. So sales doesn't have to be about lying, cheating, stealing from another person. It can be about a lot more than that. The fact is, a good salesperson, a good sales organization should really be understanding what the other person is trying to achieve, what is it that they're actually trying to accomplish, and why are they talking to you in the first place? And if you understand what they're looking for, then that should hopefully help you understand how to help them, as well as helping yourself. The fact is, you shouldn't be trying to sell them something that they don't want. That's not a good salesperson, and that's where the stereotype comes in, and that's why people really hate the idea of sales, is that they assume that the person's entire goal is just to make money, and they don't really care about whether the product that they're selling, the service that they're selling, is actually the right thing for the other person. So persuasion is a big thing for sales. Most people, when they think of persuasion, they think of lying and cheating. But I mean, there is positive persuasion. The fact is, everybody has to be persuaded to do something. You need to be persuaded to come to this conference. Chris and the RubyConf team had to convince you that the speakers here were good speakers for you to listen to, that Boracay is an amazing place, which so far I've noticed it's quite amazing. That's a type of persuasion. The companies that you work for had to try to convince you that they were the right company for you to be a programmer for. So, I mean, their persuasion is around you all the time, but the fact is, when you think about sales, you think of the negative aspects of persuasion, and it doesn't have to be that way. If people act that way, that's really something that they need to change. The fact is, when it comes to positive persuasion, what you're really trying to do is educate the other individual. You need to explain to them why your product is the right product to buy. In Zach's case, he needs to educate the people who are going to be interviewing him at these companies that he's the right developer to hire. He needs to explain to them what are the skill sets that he has, why are these skill sets useful to them, and how is he actually going to go about making that company a better place, making that product that he's going to work on a better product, and how is he going to make that company money. So now after you've educated a person, especially when you're looking at something like interviewing and trying to get a job, it's always a good idea to find common ground with the other people you're talking to. If all you're talking about is work, it's very difficult for you to actually make some rapport with these people. And in the case of at least getting a job, it's very useful for you to actually start befriending these people that you're talking to. So in Zach's case, he's been interviewing for about an hour with Chris. They've been talking about very deep technical stuff when it comes to the code base at GitHub. But now, they've realized that there are certain things that they really both care about outside of work. They like open source development. So, they start shooting the shit a little bit about that, getting an understanding of each other more at a personal level, as well as, just for Chris's sake, he can now understand, how does Zach go about doing development outside of a work environment. What are the things that he likes? Why does he like this type of stuff? It lets him understand and, Zach from more of a personal level rather than, just talking about the specific stuff during the interview process. So for Zach, fortunately, he was a good salesperson. He convinced GitHub that he was the right person to get hired, and now he got the job. So in a week, he'll start there. So, he used positive persuasion to educate the interviewees that he was being interviewed by, and he made sure he found some common ground because he realized that, making friends, especially if you're going to be working at this place, you want to understand whether you're going to enjoy working with these people, and that's something that he made sure he did. So now Zach is starting at GitHub. It's his first week. He knows he's going to learn a lot about the code base, understand what the development workflow is like, and all the fun stuff when it comes to being a developer at GitHub. But he's also going to learn a little bit about sales. It's something that's important to the company, and it's something that they feel like everybody should have at least like a 101 understanding of what sales is. So in Zach's case, he's fortunate. He understands what sales is because he had to have a good idea for that in order to sell himself to become an employee at GitHub. But just as important as it is to understand what sales is about, it's important to understand the things that you shouldn't do when you're in sales and the things that you should be looking out for. So the sleazy salesperson, to them, sales is a zero-sum game. Zero-sum games are very competitive. The idea behind them is that they have to win no matter what, and they have to win. It doesn't really matter what happens to the other individual. But if you look at a business, if you look at how businesses grow, if they all had a zero-sum game, eventually they would have clients or customers that realize that they got screwed over on something and they're not going to be happy. You want customers, you want clients that are happy. So what that means is that you want to have a sales process and a cycle that benefits not only you but the customer as well, right? You as a salesperson want to make money to meet your quota or whatever it is that your sales team kind of goals are, but the fact is the customer also wants to benefit in some way. So you need to either make sure that you're actually selling them the right service or the right product, or that you're making sure that this is a big customer and you're giving them a discount, or whatever it is that's going to make them feel like you didn't just suck everything from them and didn't give anything back, right? No one enjoys being that type of person where they only are giving, and nothing's really being given back to them. Some people, especially in Glen Ross, will use a very trickster type of style of sales. They'll basically lie about anything that they can. If the customer wants something, they'll just tell them like, oh yeah, we can make that right away. And then, as most of you probably know in this room, they go to the engineering team to tell them that you need to make this feature in our product in about a month. Otherwise, we're going to lose millions of dollars. And that's never a good situation. Everybody gets stressed out in those types of situations. The customer is never going to be happy because the fact is that feature was never meant to be in the product, or if it is, it's never going to be the way that they like it to be. And that's just going to start causing a spiral of customer being unhappy with you and just basically having bad relationships between the company and your clients or your customers. And like I said before, milking the customer is never a good thing. If they're giving you money and they're buying stuff from you all the time, whether you're a service company and you're giving them services, or you're a product company and they're paying you more for developers, in the case of GitHub or whatever it is you're doing, you want to make sure that they're appreciated, right? You want to make sure that you're either giving them a discount, which is something that they appreciate, or if you have some type of customer group that comes to the company and gets to talk to the product team, you invite them. You want to make them feel like they're not just another customer in your, hundreds or thousands of customers, that they actually are being taken care of, that you're actually appreciating them as a customer, and you want to know what they're talking about. If all you're doing is just taking money for them and you never speak to them, you never ask them about their concerns, no one's going to be in a good place down the line, because they're going to realize that you're not a company that actually cares about your customers. And in terms of sales, many salespeople, or many people think, a salesperson is like a rogue individual at the company. They're going to go out, get that big deal, make millions of dollars on their own, and then go buy a Tesla or something. But the fact is, in most companies, a salesperson needs the support of a lot of people in the company. In the case of GitHub, a very technical product, our salespeople are not technically minded. They don't understand exactly what developers need. They might understand the product at a very high level, but they need help from, we have a sales engineering team. They need help from those people. They're going to need help from marketing to make sure that they're actually speaking and having the right, buzzwords out there for those higher up individuals, the C-level individuals that are actually going to be making these checks. So the salesperson isn't doing all of this on their own. They're actually working as a team. And so for them, not being that sleazy person is very important, because if they are, no one's actually going to want to work with them, because they're going to think that this individual is not only sucking everything from the customer, they're taking things from internal teams and just kind of going out there and doing it on their own. So, Zach's learned that sales is not a zero-sum game. It's a bad idea to trick your customers and milk them for whatever they have. And the fact is, a salesperson is going to need not only him, the engineering people, but various other people from the company as well, in order to actually make that sale. So now PJ is going to be talking to Zach. PJ is a very enlightened individual. He likes psychology very much. And he feels that, even though there are many programming languages out there like Node.js, Go, Rust, whatever it is that's the new hot thing, and you probably as a developer want to go learn that because it's exciting, everybody's writing blog posts about it. But, he feels that some individuals should go learn about psychology, especially social psychology. The fact is, individuals are very complex. They're probably more complex than a computer. The human brain is the most complex machine we have access to. So, PJ would argue, rather than you trying to work on writing an app for that computer in your pocket, which you probably do use more than the one in your brain, why not spend some time with that human brain? Why not understand it a little bit better? A good book that I actually like is called Influence. It talks about the psychology of persuasion. It actually goes to 6 principles of ethical persuasion. So you learn about reciprocity, scarcity, liking, authority, social proof, and community. So these are all aspects of persuasion that most people are doing on a daily basis, but they don't really think about it because it's very natural and it doesn't feel like you're actually trying to like convince someone to do something that you feel wrong about, or you feel like maybe they wouldn't like it because you're doing it in such a natural way that you don't really even think about it. The other thing that's very important for many people to understand is that cognitive biases are a very common thing. As I talked about earlier, most people probably in this room have a very bad mindset of salespeople. So you as a salesperson, when you go up and you start pitching something, or even if you're not a salesperson, the minute you go start talking to someone about your product or your service, they might immediately just have this bad perception of, oh wow, this guy's trying to sell me something. I don't want to talk to him. I mean, whenever I walk down the streets, the minute someone tries to even hand me a pamphlet, I just like cancel them out and walk away and assume they're trying to sell me something that I don't really care about. And that's not good, right? They might be talking to me about something that matters, but I have this, cognitive bias of the fact that any minute that any time someone tries to hand me something that I don't know about, that I don't even want to talk to them. So that's something to think about. You don't want to always have these cognitive biases. You want to have these, give the other person a chance and give them a second or two or a few minutes to talk to you about what they want to talk about, and then make a decision after that whether it's actually something you want to continue having a discussion about, or if it's not something that matters to you. So if human brains are the most complex thing, then the next thing that's probably even more complex is the interactions between other humans. I mean, the fact is you have to think about a lot of things, right? There are a lot of variables that come into play. You have to think about gender, you have to think about where this person was born, where they live, how they were raised, because anything that you say to them, if you just say the wrong word and it's something that they have a very strong negative aspect to, you basically lost talking to that person, right? So it's a very complex, very touchy situation to start talking to other people. That's why, the joke is that no one should ever talk about politics or religion, because the minute you bring those two topics up, it's never going to turn out well, no matter who you talk to. So, that's a very interesting thing. I personally think that it's very fun and exciting to actually dive into that type of stuff, because no matter what, unless you're a hermit, which I assume the people in this room aren't because you're sitting with other people, you're going to be interacting with other individuals. So understanding how to actually talk to them in a way that makes you look like a good person, makes them want to actually talk to you, can only help you out in the long run. The fact is, learning what's important to other people allows you to understand how to talk to them, and if you're looking to talk to them about your services or your product, you're going to make sure you talk about the right things, the things that they care about, because once you get to know them as a person, you're going to understand what are the things that matter to them. So Zach is now ready to be a salesperson. He feels like he's learned a lot from both PJ and Scott. So he ends up going to a conference. He meets Danish, who's an avid Subversion user, and he's going to try to convince him why it's better to go to Git, why Git is better than SVN. So a good skill to have for any individual is debating. When you debate, you can really understand what are the arguments the other person cares about. You can actually feel like you have knowledge, and that other person feels like you know what you're talking about. So debating allows you to really get into nitty-gritties of the conversation. But you also need to understand your audience and understand how to frame your conversations in the right way. When you understand what the other person cares about, you'll make sure that when you're talking about something, you talk about it in a way that resonates with them. And for some people, especially when you work on a product and you're an engineer, you might understand why a feature is very important, but if you just go and you're like, oh yeah, pull requests are the best thing ever, and the other person doesn't even know what that word means, doesn't know what you're talking about, you're not really explaining that feature in the right way. You need to understand what does this person care about, and how does that feature actually solve that problem for them? And you need to talk about it in that way so that they fully understand what you're speaking to. Because just because you worked on that feature, that's because you work at that company and understand the product, doesn't mean everybody you're talking to understands it as well. So understanding the differences between features and benefits is going to be useful. Being able to know how to adapt in conversations is very useful, right? Like if another individual is talking about something completely different, or they have problems, and you're not making sure that you actually talk about that specific thing, they're just going to think that you're bullshitting them or that your company or your product is not important to them. So in Zach's case, he realized that Danish was like, hey, a very important thing to my company is that we don't really trust third-party individuals. We don't want to have our source code on your servers. So Zach can still talk about GitHub and explain why it's beneficial, but this is a very important thing. And if he didn't catch that, whatever he talks about now is not going to really matter to Danish because a very important aspect to him wasn't addressed. So now, Zach, taking on the education he learned from both PJ and Scott, realizes that he needs to shift the conversation and talk about the aspects of GitHub that does address this problem. He's fortunate that there is a product out there that allows Danish to use GitHub, but still, have it on their internal service. So he starts talking about that. Another thing that a lot of people have a very difficult problem with, especially engineers who really feel like they understand topics, is like the minute something comes up that you don't know about, it's very easy to try and bullshit and feel like you actually know what you're talking about. But the fact is that never helps in a sales cycle. A very common one that comes up for most people is the license agreement, right? If a customer is buying something from you, they care about the license agreement because there's a whole bunch of shit in there that the lawyers care about. And if you just start talking about what's in there, that's never going to help you. And the fact is your lawyers are going to yell at you a lot. Trust me, that's happened to me before. It's never a good thing to happen. You never want lawyers yelling at you. But that's kind of the thing, right? Is that you need to be mindful of yourself. That if a topic comes up that you don't know about, the best thing to do is just be like, hey, I don't know the answer to this topic, but I'll make sure to get back to you. And that's just going to help you, right? That's gonna allow the other person to actually feel like that you're not bullshitting them, that you're taking them seriously, you're understanding their concerns, and you want to get them the best answer possible. You don't just want to tell them what they want to hear so that you can get their business. That's only going to make your relationship with them better. And the fact is, when it comes to sales, the most important thing is the relationship. The other thing that most people don't understand is marketing in sales is a very tight-knit team. The fact is, you can't have a good sales organization without a marketing team. So in Zach's case, Danish is asking him that he needs a one-pager. His C-level people are not very smart. They like buzzwords, they like one-line sentence things, and him going back and explaining the benefits of GitHub is not going to really resonate well with them. They just want a piece of paper that goes through the bullet points of, why is this product a good thing for us to get? So, Zach, again, doesn't have that on him, and he lets Danish know that that's something he can send him a little later, send him a PDF or something like that. And as I said earlier, it's always good to get back to common ground. So once they kind of have the business level discussions, Zach now talks to Danish a little bit about Ruby, and they gain a relationship more from a personal level, because as I said earlier, relationships are by far the most important thing in sales, especially when it comes to individuals. Like in Zach's case, if Danish actually likes him as an individual, thinks that he's doing the right thing and not trying to sell him something he doesn't want, he's going to make sure that any concerns that come up from his team or anybody else, his manager, he's going to get that back to Zach and actually work with him to make sure that they actually use their product. Now, I talked about situations involving selling a product, but the fact is, selling can help you in multiple ways. In this case, specifically, Zach has a coworker, Sergio, who's trying to convince his manager that doing testing and using a continuous integration service is going to be useful for a new project that he's working on. But the problem is, like most managers, all Chris cares about is features. He wants Sergio and his team to work on new features for the project because that's what he believes that customers are going to care about. So to him, doing testing and having a continuous integration service is a complete waste of time. So Zach hears the conversation Sergio has and feel like, he has the ability of convincing Chris. He feels a little confident. He convinced Danish to use GitHub at the conference. Feels like he can help Sergio out a little bit. So he goes up to Sergio, lets him know that he's gone through Sales 101 at GitHub. Maybe he can go up to Chris and help him out and convince Chris that it's a good idea to do testing. So as Zach learned earlier, it's always good to start off with common ground. He's going to go up and try to convince Chris to do something that he believes is a bad idea. So you don't want to just go right in and start talking about why it's actually a great idea to do testing. So Zach knows Chris loves coffee. So he gets the best coffee in San Francisco and gets it for Zach. Side note, Starbucks is not good coffee. Don't ever give it to a coffee lover. They'll hate you and they'll never want to talk to you again. So now that Zach has befriended Chris, he starts going into educating him about what the benefits of having Sergio's team do testing and having a continuous integration service is. Zach knows that the most important thing for a manager is making sure that when projects are released, that there are no bugs. You don't want bugs in your project because it's never good to have to then release a patch version of it right away. No customers are going to feel like you have a good release cycle. So he explains to Chris that if you have automated testing, you can have that combined with the pull requests that Sergio teams make, and it's going to automatically tell you whether there are tests that weren't passed, whether there are bugs in the new code. So with that continuous integration service, tying it in with chat or any other thing is going to be super easy. It's not going to require Sergio's team to spend too much time. So it's a good idea for them to do that. So Chris is now blown away. He's realized that this is the most amazing thing ever. Why did he not think that continuous integration was a good idea? Clearly he was an idiot. He goes up to Sergio, lets him know that his team should spend some time in actually writing some unit tests and connecting it with a continuous integration like Travis or whatever else is out there that, he apologizes that he was an idiot and had no idea this was a new thing. Zach, of course, is pretty pleased with himself. He feels like he's probably the best salesperson ever and that he might actually think about just switching and becoming a salesperson. So by educating Chris about the benefits of testing, he was able to persuade him in the positive way, and good results came out of it, right? Chris now feels like his team is going to always be releasing projects that don't have bugs in them, and Sergio feels like he has testing in place so that he doesn't have to strain whether anything he's changing in the code is going to break anything. So the fact is, sales is a creative job. I can talk to you about some of the benefits, some of the things you can do. You can read the books that I suggest. And the fact is, you need to go out there and do it. You need to go talk about your product, about your services, or if you're a freelance developer, talk about yourself. Why are you a good person for a company to hire? And the fact is, money is not a bad thing. Money runs the world, and nothing can be more of a compliment than someone actually paying you for your services or your product. So feeling like it's sleazy or bad to, talk about that type of stuff shouldn't be something that you should think about. It should never be that way. If you think that, it's probably because you feel like you're selling something that that person should never have, which is a completely different problem. So it's now time for FQAs, what I like to call fake questions from the audience. So should developers be salespeople? No, that is not what I'm trying to say here. That is a horrible idea. You will probably not have a good company if that happens. But the fact is, engineers, developers go to conferences just like yourself. They go to meetups, social gatherings with other engineers. People are going to ask you about where you work, what you do, what's the product that you're working on. So just understanding how to have that conversation in the right way can only be a good thing, right? For a company, you want the people that are going out that love your product to talk about it in the way that convinces other people that your company is amazing and your product is amazing, that they should maybe go look into it. So what are the most important things that a salesperson to have? the fact is, being comfortable talking with other people, I think, is super important. Because that's what's going to help you build those relationships. That's going to help you like understand the needs of another person. When you can feel comfortable with other people, when other people feel comfortable around you, that's when the barriers come down. That's when they're going to actually tell you what you want to hear and the important things you want to hear. If they're not going to want to use your service or product, they will at least tell you the truth about why. And that's just going to benefit you, right? You can take that back to the team, you can take that back to the engineering team and explain that in a way that's like beneficial to them rather than, oh, well, like company A just didn't want to use this, I don't know why. So how do you go about starting? The fact is, like I said earlier, the easiest way to go about doing it is just actually doing it. How you can do that is like, at this conference, if you're talking to new people, make sure you actually go up and talk to them about what you do and see how that resonates. Are they intrigued about your services or product, or are they just kind of like, waiting for you to stop talking so that someone else can talk or they can talk? And if you're still really shy, you're not very confident about talking to other people, I like to say like you can write blog posts about things that you do. If you're a developer working on open source projects, talk about that open source project, have those conversations in the social network, right? Go on Twitter, have those conversations. It's a lot easier for you to do that. Like, anything that allows you to get in that kind of mindset of like explaining to other people things that you work on and why that's a good thing for them to use. So that's the end of my talk. Thank you guys for listening.